Many thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Market Report Show. Back from the one-day holiday that the federal government declared for every Nigerians to mourn the demise of former President Muhammadu Buhari. But here we are, the day for business has returned to the Wednesday, 16 July 2025. And one of the key discussion points of today is looking at the Nigerian startup ecosystem. And Nigerian startup ecosystem has become one of the aspects of the Nigerian economy that federal government, state government have been doing one or two things alongside private investors to also invest money on. Nigerian startup ecosystem is a dynamic force in Africa, attracting significant investment and driving innovation in various sectors. Nigeria's large population of over 200 million, projected to reach 400 million by 2050, provide a substantial internal market for startup to scale up. Nigerian Startup Act aims to create a favorable legal and regulatory framework, fostering growth and attracting investment. Nigerian startup ecosystem also is recognized globally, with Lagos ranking among the top 100 global startup hubs. Despite all this good initiative and good acumen, the challenges are still there. The ecosystem has shown resilience with startups in fintech, agrotech, and health tech continue to strive in Nigeria. The key strengths include a large internal market, the presence of tech unicorn, and a passage of the Nigerian Startup Act. The ecosystem has seen a rise in investment, particularly in the first quarter of 2024, down to the end of 2024 and beginning of 2025, with over $160 million invested so far, and is still growing in the year 2025. Where it faced challenges that include funding decline and regulatory hurdles, it remains a leading hub with strong potential for further growth. Meanwhile, inadequate power supply, internet access can hinder startup operation. Concern exists about the potential overvaluation of startups driven by increased liquidity in the ecosystem. As we appraise Nigerian startup ecosystem today, which is regarded as vibrant and promising landscape, characterized by strong potential and resilience, it is also faced with challenges that require strategic attention. We are confronted with how we are going to address the weaknesses and capitalize on the opportunities, and much more positioning Nigeria as a leading force in African startup ecosystem. Joining me on the show today is no other person that has been in that ecosystem of startup, helping us to understand how it has been. Theodora, a financial consultant, money management expert, who is also the founder of Gazelle Kobe Concept. Theodora, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Exactly. I'm quite interested that someone like you have been in the game of startup will be helpful for us to look at how it has been. Before we get to that aspect, what has been your assessment of Nigerian financial environment so far?
All right. Personally, I would say that I'm impressed with the Nigerian financial economy. When it comes to startups, right? We are evolving. We have seen growth in the aspect of fintech, mobile banking and digital payments. But however, with the high rate of inflation, which is currently at about 22.97% as of today, and with the stable or instability of our currency, and also with low access to funding, this has been a major bottleneck for startups. But the CBN reforms and the startup regulations has kind of provided hope for startups. But regardless, even with the reforms that look to support SMEs and startups, we still have lack of practical access to funding, which is the major gaps that a lot of founders in Nigeria are facing. So once this can be fixed, we can confidently say that the Nigerian financial system is above average. Exactly.
And above average in the sense that it can support initiative from the startup, foundation like yours. And now, but let's get to the bane of this issue, where first and foremost, we need to appraise the system. We want to appraise the ecosystem of startup. But from your own understanding, when people say startup, some people get confused because of the technicality of the word. But from your own understanding, can you help us break it down?
Okay, so to a layman, if you really need to understand a startup is an innovative but a growing business that is solution driven. So they are aimed at providing solution and they are scalable. They have scalable models. Now, most startups are tech-driven too, right? Unlike the traditional SMEs that we have, what differentiates a startup is that they prioritize fast growth and market disruptions. So when we talk about market disruptions, is coming up with a system, coming up with a solution or a product that changes the way that a particular sector has been functioning over time, right? And if I'm to give a typical example so that we can drive it home to the layman, we see Flutter Waves, we see Paystack. They came in and they changed the banking system from how they used to operate traditionally, making digital payments easy for SMEs and businesses. Then we also have Uber, that came in to change the Nigerian taxi system, offering cashless rides online. Then we also have MoneyPoint, came in to change ATMs, where I step out of my house, I don't need to pay transport to go to the bank, and I can transact with my card from the comfort of my home. And we have this scattered everywhere. But see the amazing thing. Now, OPay came to disrupt MoneyPoint. Because MoneyPoint can be restrictive, right? Not every area, especially the underserved communities, the rural communities, have MoneyPoint the way we have it in the urban areas. So OPay came in with their solution where you don't even need to have a smartphone. All you need to have is a functional SIM card and your touchlight phone, like we call it, and you can operate a full banking system wherever you are without internet. So these are disruptions that occur when startups come in with their innovation. So if your business is fast growing, because we see MoneyPoint, OPay, they are growing so fast. If your business has a very good scalable model, if your business is innovative and most times tech-driven, and your business brings about market disruption, then you are running a startup.
Yeah, exactly. I think I felt the impact of the startup in the area of logistics, delivery of food, delivery of clothes, and the rest of them. But there are some aspects of the economy that we are still having issues that startup cannot penetrate. Particularly if, as you rightly pointed, if they are not tech-driven, if they are not digitally driven, they have issues. But what do you think we can do to also ensure that? Because in Western countries, we are seeing a penetrating to the agri sector, the health sector, and even the education sector. But although in our own case, we are trying as much as possible to upscale in that regard, but we're still limited. Is it because of the financial issue that is still leading us in that regard?
Okay, so one of the biggest challenges that we have when it comes to this, like you rightly said, most of the startups are in the area of tech and logistics, is because these startups follow trends. Now, what we tell startups is don't follow trends. You need to seek to solve a local problem. Now, in one of the incubation programs we held, I was part of the consultants who, was training the SMEs, right? These startups. There was this particular startup that, to me, in my years of training startups, his innovation stood out for me. I feel like till today I have not seen somebody that I would say for me has impressed me beyond him. And what was his solution? In fact, it's a patent that he created from scratch. He had to patent it because we advised him to do that during the program. It's a solar solution, but a 3-in-1 solar solution where he's solving the problem of light, he's solving the problem of CCTV, and he's solving the problem of internet. So even if you're in the rural communities and he brings his solar solution to you, which is now in a box, no longer the big solar that we see, which is now in a box, he installs this for you. And he installs the network and he installs the CCTV. So you're having a 3-in-1 solution. And this is the first solution of its kind, not just in Africa, but around the world. Because what most of solar solutions do, they just provide you light on its own. People who are into CCTV provide you CCTV on their own. And people who are internet providers are providing internet on their own. But he has infused the three together, making it easy for someone to be able to afford it. And another thing I didn't point out about startups is that they make it affordable, make it fast, and make it accessible. You have variety of choice to choose from. They make it accessible to a wider range of people. So this startup has been able to make power, internet, as well as CCTV accessible to you just by patronizing his solar box.
Very interesting.
If we can have startups that are solution-driven, not trend-driven, because now everybody is going into tech.
Exactly.
Tech is not bad, but everybody is going into tech, forgetting that we still have the fashion industry, forgetting we have health, we have education, and so many other lucrative sectors. So it's for you to think out of the box, think outside the box, and make sure that you are solution-driven and come up with solutions in these other aspects that are not just tech-driven. And you will see, you will be the next person that will be heard.
Exactly. But I won't blame those who are driving by, who have been, I mean, their passion is driven by trend, because it is the money. They are all after. But let's look at some of the issues that many people have argued around the startup initiative, particularly challenges. You know, you have been there, and for at least I know you have been there for a very long time, to understand the peculiar challenges of startup initiative in Nigeria. You know, share with us some of your experience.
The number one peculiar challenge of startups in Nigeria is funding, access to funds. And it's something that has hindered a lot. So even though people have really good and innovative ideas, they don't have the funds to scale. And so they are struggling. And then you said something that they are looking for the money.
Exactly.
So that's why everybody is tilting towards the side that they will get the money. Once the problem of funding, access to finance can be solved, it will be 50% of the problems of startups. And the second we'll talk about is power and infrastructure deficit. Of course, we know that power has been one major challenge that we have faced as a country for years now. Now, if this can be solved, it makes operations easy. Because if I come to work and I know that I can work from morning till night without interruptions, it will increase my productivity. I will think better. But in a situation where you come to work and then everybody has to put on their, I pass my neighbor generator, noise is coming from here, you can't put on your AC with such a gen. How many startups can really afford maybe listers and solar so that they can be able to power their ACs and all that? So this is one of the problems, power infrastructure deficit, because even when you talk about logistics, the logistics is thriving in places like Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Lagos, which are the biggest startup hubs. So when you take these same products to the other parts of the country, it's either you are faced with very horrible routes, and so it's discouraging, right? So when we talk about power and infrastructure deficit, is something that needs to be looked in, that has been a major challenge for SMEs. Also, we talk about irregular and unstable regulatory policies.
I'm even coming to that. Most people are like, with the Startup Act that was passed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it will make it easy. But from your own understanding, has it really worked, the smooth work for a startup?
Well, the Startup Act right now, I'm not really seeing the effect as of yet. But I do know that at least there has been a measure of recognition of startups, and that is a good thing. Now we are being recognized as major players in the Nigerian economy, people who are drivers of employment, because the startups now are the ones that are driving the employment, because these big organizations, they finish employing who they want to employ, right? So if I'm starting up a business, I need an admin, I need an operations, I need a HR, I need a marketer. So I'm driving employment.
You didn't mention media.
I need social media.
Not social media. You
Okay,
need the main media.
all forms of
Exactly.
media, yes.
No, but having said that, because of the aspect of the regulation, you know, when that particular act of law was being put into process in the National Assembly, one of the biggest minors that many people are pointing towards that, although some people supported it, some people were against it, that there should be a startup agency. Well, left for the government, they were like, no, we don't need that. But from your own understanding, if a startup agency has been created to follow up on the regulation, on the act, and ensure that it is implemented fully, don't you think that there will be a better a better gain for us at this point in time?
Well, even if a startup agency is created, which would be good because now we are focusing on startups, the question is the problem that we have always been facing as a nation. Would there be accountability? So it's not about setting up another agency because looking at it critically, Smedan can do this job since they are tailored towards small and medium enterprises. They can also, adopt the startups. But the problem we have always had is accountability. There's nobody to hold accountable. Like giving an example, right? When we even talk about funding, we remember the NISAL fund from the COVID that was for household, startups, MSMEs, and all. Now, a few people get these funds. Where's the rest? Right now, DBN has come up with their 5 billion grants for SMEs.
Exactly.
How many SMEs are going to get part of this 5 billion? So you give 1, 2, 3 so that it will be on record. Where does the rest go to? So that is the challenge. It's not about creating another agency. It's about creating systems to be sure that this money will be properly allocated to the people who deserve it, and I use the word deserve, and also there'll be accountability for these funds. Once we can take care of the problem of accountability, we don't really need any agency to
drive the system. But let's also talk about improving government startup support, because rightly pointed that Development Bank of Nigeria, DBN, is about releasing 5 billion. Last year, 2024, we saw Bank of Industry released over 200 billion.
Yes.
And you talk about accountability. Those government support systems, have they been really, helping us to arrive at our destination, or we are still locked behind? Because if you talk about infrastructural deficit, DBN is not taking care of infrastructure. Bank of Industry is not taking care of it. For example, I had the opportunity of encountering people who collected CBN loan under Emefiele.
Yes.
Someone collect 2 million, 3 million, and we asked them a question: what really happened to the money? Someone say I buy fuel. Someone say I buy generator. This one say I pay shop rent. But you look at all this money being given out. How will the startup be able to manage the money given to him or her so that this question or this excuse will not be given later?
Now, the point is, if there was accountability from the side of the government, say you are the one driving this, and you are sure you gave me the loan, right? You are sure you gave 1, 2, 3 people who are not related to you in any way,
exactly,
who are just neutral people. You will follow up for that loan repayment. But most times that loan repayment is not followed up because you know the people you gave it to. Most times we favor our own. So if I give it to my sister, I call my brother, I call my uncle, I call my nephew, I make sure I empower my family members. Do you think I will go back to collect that money?
It will be very difficult.
It will be very difficult. But if we have to do things the right way, if we have to do things the way it should be done, then you will follow through with the systems. This is a loan. It's supposed to be repaid at XYZ time. Then you will have people coming to request for that repayment if there's a default. And I assure you that if the system is followed where the government is accountable to, using these funds for what it is meant for, it will bring also a form of responsibility in the side of the startups. Because if I know that if I get this and I default, I will never get an opportunity to do that, I wouldn't want to default. But the idea that we all have is, if I get this loan today, let me chop my own national cake. So you are not interested in paying back. So it has to be fixed from the top down.
You see why it is very, very also so smooth that if a private sector give startup money, there's accountability, there's transparency.
Because they do their due diligence. First of all, when we work with a lot of private organizations that fund startups, especially the international organizations, the due diligence that they do might almost discourage you from going ahead with the loan. It's as bad as sometimes we have to do physical assessment of your startup location, your office. The last one we did with the GIZ, I had to go to Kano, Bauchi, Lafia, to be able to access what these startups have written, because it's not what is written on paper that most times are obtainable when you get to their offices. Now, the purpose of why we come in to run these incubation programs is to help these investors to be sure that the SMEs are investor ready. So we help you put up your structures, we help you set up systems, we help you make sure that you have all your strategy documents in place. Okay, we help you make sure that your company is properly valued. Let's take Flutterwave, for example. If they were not properly valued, if they didn't have structure, if they didn't have all these things in place, they won't have gotten the investors that they got.
Exactly.
But we know that Flutterwave was valued as over $3,000 billion, which is why the investors had confidence to come in and invest in that company. So for it is easier for private organizations because they don't just dish out money.
Exactly.
They do all their due diligence and they make sure that your business model is scalable. So if you're not even scalable, you will not get it.
When you're talking about scalable, because I am seeing scalable as maybe one of the biggest requirements for any startup to even get anything. When you talk about scalable, does it mean your performance productivities, or does it mean your high level, your acceptance in the area where you operate? What does it really entail?
It goes beyond both performance and high level. It's looking at your business model, and every investor wants to know that this business has the capacity to make profit, and there has to be year-on-year growth. So, you know, one of the problems that a lot of SMEs, traditional SMEs have, is they just set up businesses to make money. So as far as I'm making sales every day, I'm okay. I'm making that sales just to survive. But SMEs, startups, why they are focused on fast growth and scalability is because they know that they have to make profits, right, if they have to attract investors.
Exactly.
So for you to be scalable, your business model should be able to bring, you should be able to have 1, 2, 3 sources that this business is bringing in income for you. Take, for example, the initial example I gave of that startup.
Exactly.
Now, I might decide that I do not want your CCTV, but I'm still paying for power. I might decide that, okay, I think I will just maintain my network provider. Okay, but I need the security. So I subscribe for your CCTV services and your solar. So whichever way, he's making money from the solar, he's making money from the CCTV, and he's making money from being a network provider. Beyond that, he's also making money from training people on how to install and maintain these solar panel boxes, right? And as at the time we last spoke, he was at the verge of having a contract signed with the Enugu State Electricity Distribution. So such a person, you know that his business is scalable. But in an event where my business model maybe is tied to a particular activity before I can earn, you know, then no investor will be looking at you. So for your business to be scalable, it means that you can make profit, there's room for growth. And expansion. You can, you know, even get to the point where you are in serving the foreign communities.
Very interesting. But let's also look at another very interesting aspect. Now, we have talked about the aspect of productivities, engagement, and the rest, even government initiative to support. But let's talk about these startup players themselves. How are we going to sustain startup players' potential and resilience? You know, in Nigeria, if you want to survive as a businessman, you have to be very, very resilient. Someone told me that you have to put up a chest wall to survive all the bullet and arrow that are coming. So how are you guys putting them through all these resiliences?
Well, the truth of the matter is, I would say that averagely, startups are already resilient. They have grit, right? But the major challenge, in my experience, that I have seen is that they are knowledge averse. There are a lot of programs coming out locally and internationally for startups. You hear about the Jobber Woman Incubation Program. You hear about Smedan is organizing training. You hear about GIZ doing this or that. Some as far as 3 months, 6 months, 18 months, even 2 years, where they're exposing them to different practices and training them to help upscale their businesses, to help them develop a better, you know, business model, their MVPs and all that. But you will put out an advert, right? And you have 10,000 people apply.
Hmm.
1,000 people, 700 people apply. And then when you post your training link, most times these things are virtual.
Exactly.
Yes. When you post the training, you see 10, 20. But when it's time for pitch, you see all of them.
All of them coming around.
So the major problem that startups themselves have is that they are knowledge averse. They think that the time that they spend, okay, gaining that knowledge through those trainings, through those conferences, you're wasting their time. I'd rather be outside in the market making sales. But you forget that the knowledge that you acquire will give you one more edge over the person who didn't get that knowledge on how to better position yourself so that you become competitive even in the global market. We can't keep remaining local champions because the competition is not just within Nigeria. Now, it is good that we are one of the highest hubs of startup with about 3,330 active startups. But how many of those active startups can play in the global scene and be highly competitive with the others? We very well know that business and finance and all these things are not things that are being taught in our educational system.
Exactly, but
So
they give you the basic theory.
They give you the basics, but they don't go into the details. Now the programs are here. Startups need to prioritize training. They need to leverage on these incubation programs. They need to leverage on, boot camps that will help them learn from professionals, people that have been there ahead of them, on how to better position themselves to grow.
Very interesting. But before I let you go, because we just have some few minutes to round up this section with you, Nigeria is one of the top 4 in Africa, but we need to sustain ourselves within the top 4, because I could recall in 2023 we almost dropped down to top 7 among the top 7, but God, as God will have it, we are back to the top 4. But on your own aspect, as someone that has been in the game, how can we sustain ourselves in the top 4, even overthrown the top 1 that is there?
Okay, so for us to sustain this position, the government has to look into its youth. One of the things that is attracting foreign investors is the population of the youth.
Exactly.
We have a large population, over 200 million people, right? And this is the population that is driving the change. And we do not just have a large population, we have population of youths that are highly intelligent and innovative. So if the government can look into the youths and ensure that they are being supported financially by making this access to funding easy, making sure that we have stability in the regulations that they're coming up with, making sure that we encourage both private and public collaboration when it comes to this funding, and introduce more of these incubation programs, not just bringing up pitch competitions. No, we shouldn't be competing amongst ourselves. We should be learning. And when we keep doing this and also promote collaboration, not competition, it will help us maintain that position. We have a lot of funding agencies trooping into Nigeria that has faith in the Nigerian youth, that has faith in the Nigerian startup ecosystem. We need our government to also look at us and have the same faith in us and be ready to invest in us. Because once that is done, the GDP of the economy will be affected.
Exactly.
Every aspect of the economy, we experience growth. So if the government can just look into us, knowing that we the youths of Nigeria, we have what it takes to move this nation forward in every aspect, not just in tech, in health, in education, in agriculture, in the fashion, in the cosmetics. We have what it takes. Also, they need to remove their eyes from just focusing on tech-enabled startups. We also need to remove our eyes from the urban centers and look into the rural areas, because there are smart people in the rural areas.
I'll take that from you. There are a lot of smart guys, smart ladies in the rural areas. And from Theodora, government, look at us. We don't need to compete with ourselves, but rather there should be collaboration. Theodora, too, thank you for coming on the show. I want to bet you this is developing issues. It's a conversation that we need to extend beyond just this level. So hopefully we have to bring them back.
Thank you
I
so
hope
much.
you have our time. You won't be in Lafia or in Kano. You won't tell me you're in Kano or you're in Lafia or you Meduguri.
I'll make out time.
All right. Thank you so much.